So I want to point out something really important with jQuery. Typically, you want to wait until the page has loaded and that it's ready before you start affecting things with your JavaScript or your jQuery. And the reason why is because some things might take a while to load, whether it's a large image or something that's pulling from the server that's taking a while. And so that's why it's really important to wait. And jQuery makes it really easy to wait until a document is ready. And you use this function called document ready. Okay, so it looks like this. You basically just do the $, and then document, and then .ready. And then inside of it, you want to write another function. And then in there, you can place all of your jQuery code. So from here, we could carry on with whatever we were doing. So for example, we can target all the H1s in this document and add the red border class that we predefined up here just by doing border red and then saving that. And there you go, it works. Now, if I were to remove this, it would probably work fine in this case, okay? Because there's not a lot going on in this document. The document loads up and it's ready to go fast. See, when I refresh here, it works probably just the same. But it is a really good habit to do this. You want to get into the habit of wrapping all your code inside of something like this, just so that you know that the document has fully loaded before. And that's really going to come into play when you're working on sites that have a large code base and it takes a while to load some things. Now, keep in mind also other people have much slower internet connections than some people might have, and so you need to be careful with that. Internet connections vary. So while it might load quickly for you and you might think, okay, I don't need this, I can get rid of it, keep in mind that somebody else might experience something totally different. You just never know, and it's always better to stay on the safe side. So get into the habit of wrapping your code inside this document ready statement. And if you haven't quite got it memorized, if you're new to it, try to memorize it, because this is something that you'll see quite a bit with jQuery and something that you'll want to be using quite a bit. Now, on that same note, I also want to point out that you shouldn't typically have these variables hanging out in the open like this. So you could have a variable, call it heading or whatever you want to call it. And then we could do our document.getElement by ID, and target out, say, this heading, or likewise using even jQuery to target out those H1s. This is a bad idea, and what I'm talking about is putting a variable out in the open like this. Okay, and the reason why it's a bad idea is because that is what we consider a global variable. When it's not placed inside of a function, or if it's not being namespaced properly, if it's just out in the open like this, it's a bad idea. And the reason why is you might have other JavaScript libraries loaded up, and they may use that same variable name. And then your code won't act properly, or the way you expect it, because they might overwrite something that you had named as a heading. There's a low probability that the variable that you come up with, whatever you name it, might get named the same thing in another third-party library, but there is that risk, and this is considered a really bad idea. So typically, you don't want to place your variables out in the open. You'll want to place them inside of your functions, wrapped inside of things like this document ready and so on. So on that note, I want to point out that there's this website here called learn.jquery.com, and in there you can read about code organization. And I think it's really important that you read this stuff if you really want to be using jQuery on a professional level. You're going to see how, even just using document ready alone isn't as clean as wrapping things inside objects. And we've covered all of this if you go back to the videos on objects in JavaScript. So there's nothing really new here, but it's just a way of organizing things a little cleaner. And you'll see jQuery plugins are written this way, and you should get into the habit of writing your stuff like this. So definitely check this out if you're going to be writing a lot of jQuery.